Hey guys, it is the 16th of June, so I'm starting this vlog a little bit late. I think it goes out next week, oops. But I've been so busy. I'm sorry. The first book I have to talk to you about is When the Curtain Falls by Carrie Hope Fletcher. I was a bit disappointed. It read like a first draft the whole way through. The ending was a bit weird. It was a bit rushed and it got a bit absurd. Cool premise, but execution not great. The writing was not fantastic, and I understand that she writes this in between shows and she's a very busy woman, so I understand why it's not going to be the most polished of books, but also like it is a fully published, edited, published, bound book. I don't think I should give her more lenience just because she's busy. I think maybe rather than... This is the only book by Carrie I've read, so I don't know if this is universal in her other books, but I think rather than publishing like a book a year, she might be better off focusing on one for a bit more and like developing a little bit more, and there's a lot of creases that could have been ironed out. Finished Smoke and Mirrors by Neil Gaiman. It is a book of short stories, all written by Neil Gaiman. The introduction was like one of the most interesting parts of it, I think, where he talks about like, so it's split up, the introduction, into like all the different short stories and like the process behind writing it, and that was really interesting. I found myself flipping back between the two. Chivalry, just the first one, was a really good one. It was about this woman who finds the Holy Grail in our local charity shop. It was really good. So Changes was one about this guy who he's trying to invent a cure for cancer. So he works out this gene, like this drug that rewrites all your genes. So it tells the genes to reprogram back to the start. Except a side effect of it is that when you take it, you switch sexes. And it's about sort of this world where sex means nothing. I didn't really like his poetry ones. Wasn't a big fan of them. But the ones that were good were very, very good. Last night I started reading Every Day by David Levithan, because I'll see what I feel about it. It's actually a very similar concept to Seven Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, which I'm listening to an audiobook at the moment. They wake up in somebody else's body every day. So every day they wake up in a completely different person's body, and it's been that way their whole life. First 30 pages, I shouldn't say he, that's really heteronormative. This person meets a girl called Rihanna, I think, or Rhiannon, and they appear to have fallen in love with them, which goes against all of their rules, because they sort of have rules that we don't, mess with these people's lives, we just experience them and then move on. But I think it's probably going to be about that, interesting concept. I don't like romance and I don't really like YA. I'm about halfway through Every Day by David Levithan. I don't really like the romance in it. I think it's a bit almost creepy. It's very insta-lovey. It's very this person who turns out their name is A. I will call them A. A is very much like, I love you, you should love me, here's all the reasons you should love me, and this person's like, I'm not really sure if I want, that can't work. She's still coming to visit A all the time and talking to them and things like that, which is a little bit creepy as it is, but also A keeps going out of their way to find this girl, keen to her boyfriend's email account, and none of this is considered weird. I've just finished reading Every Day by David Levithan. It was fine. The bit that I didn't like about it was the romance, and I realised that that's always what I say. The bit that I don't like about a romance book is always the romance. But for one thing, it was very insta-lovey. A is very stalkerish, was really weird. I gave it 3 stars, it was fine. I'll read the next one because I own it, but if I didn't own it, I wouldn't have read it. Means that the only other book I have with me at uni, so the only book I will be reading now, is Trial by Fire by Josephine Angelini. This is an arc, but this book actually came out in 2014, so it is a fantasy. Apart from that, I know nothing about it. I finished watching American Gods, and it was weird. It wasn't as good as the hype, I don't think, or as much as my mother had hyped me up to it, because if you're watching this, you'd hype me up a lot. It just wasn't massively what I was expecting. I was expecting it to be a lot more plot based than it was, and it was very character based, and the characters were definitely cool, but it's not a thing that I massively go for, and I have a lot of unanswered questions. But yeah, it just felt a little bit weak for me in places. I'll probably watch the next season. It's kind of cool, but lacked direction. Overall, I would recommend it if you're into light mythology, if you like Neil Gaiman. Last vlog, I said that me and Carla had started watching Dreamcatcher, which is a movie on Prime. I think they might have just taken off Prime actually, based on a novel by Stephen King. And but we never got to finish it, and then she went home, but she came back and we managed to finish it. It was really bad. It started off so strong, it was such a cool premise, and then it just descended, and it had no idea what it wanted to be. It was part alien movie, part war movie, part like weird sci-fi thriller, part like there was a bit where they sort of had telekinetic powers, and then there was this weird thing with like a kid who like had weird powers, flashbacks to it, and then it was all over the place, and it fits into my theory that no one can make Stephen King into a good movie, at least not one based on the book. The other week when Carla was here, we watched Get Out, and it was the first time I have seen it, and I really enjoyed it. It was it kind of set itself up as being this really like fancy horror that was like sort of more intellectual than it actually was, and then when you watch it, it's kind of was just like a trashy horror in places, but I really enjoyed it. It was an interesting watch. It was not scary at all. Again, it sells itself as a horror, and the advert makes it look like it's a horror. I think it's a thriller. You know, it had some like interesting things to say about race, and then I was like, cool, it's over now. It wasn't like a Black Mirror episode where I have to like take a break after watching it. I watched the entirety of Good Omens, and it was great. If you guys have been following my reading vlogs, you know that last year I read Good Omens. It was so good. The TV show, not the book. I mean, the book was also really good. I was really worried that the casting was going to be a bit off because they'd cast all these stars, and I was worried that they were just casting them for clout rather than like them actually fitting the character, but no, they all worked. They were all great. Yeah, I would definitely recommend giving it a watch. I also watched all of what is available so far of Gentleman Jack, which, if you guys don't know, is about based on the diaries of Anne Lister, who was essentially a raging lesbian in Victorian times. Don't quote me on the date. I really like the concept. I'm really enjoying the show. Really enjoy the representation in it though. Sometimes it can be done quite wrong. I think part of the reason it's done so well was probably because it is based on a true account. I liked that it acknowledges that yes, this is different from a straight relationship, but also like it's not 100% about the fact that she's queer. I have started rewatching Stranger Things. I am on episode 7 of season 1, and it's one of those shows that's like really good, and then I forget how great it is. And I really like, and like when someone talks to me about it, or like I get into it, I really like it, but then I forget that it exists. I watched the latest episode of Gentleman Jack. The queer representation in it is fantastic. The representation of a queer relationship is fantastic. I'm not loving the plot without that. If you took away the fact that it was queer and you turned it into a straight romance, I wouldn't have been interested in the plot at all. I finished listening to Norse Mythology by Neil Gaiman. I really enjoyed it. I really liked learning some of these stories. Some of them I'd heard before, some of them I hadn't. And being a Marvel fan, it was very interesting seeing the parallels between like the Marvel universe and the actual stories. And it makes me want to know more about Norse mythology, because I think it feels like I've barely scratched the surface. It feels like there's a lot more stories than he told me. I've been listening to The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. I'm really enjoying it. It's a really interesting concept. So it's about this guy who wakes up in this person's body, and the first thing he does is experience a murder. You know, he doesn't have any memories, and he's trying to work everything out, and 12 hours pass, and then all of a sudden, 24 hours pass, and all of a sudden he wakes up in somebody else's body. And he's kind of being told that he's going to wake up in a different body every day for 8 days, and he has to solve this murder in order to get his life back. I'm on like body 4, I think, and I'm only like 3 hours in, and there's like 14 hours left or something, so I'm intrigued as to where it's going to go. So yeah, so far the pacing's been a bit weird. I'm thinking it's going to be a lot longer than I want it to be, because it already feels like we're like pretty into the story, but I'm like 20% of the way through. I have watched 2 fantastic YouTube videos since I last spoke to you, and both of them are coming out videos, and you can probably guess what the first one is going to be. It's the basically I'm gay video, which was number 1 on trending last time I looked, but now it's 24, by Dan Howell. It is a fantastically made coming out video. It is a very, very, very well made video. Everything that he wanted to say, he articulated very well. He said a lot of things that were very poignant, but without it being like too serious. It was kind of a bit of fun. It is 45 minutes long, but if you have the time to watch it, please watch it. It was very, 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 very well made. Okay, Yuji Lee Yang from Try Guys, and it is like a cool 5-minute long dance sequence, and there's like no audio to it. He doesn't speak. It's just like a cool visual representation of like what it's like to be in the queer community. I'm pretty sure that is everything for this vlog. I think if you like this video, like, subscribe and all that jazz. New videos every Wednesday, new ones of these on the last Wednesday of every month. I hope you had a good day. That isn't my outro. I still hope you had a good day. I hope you enjoyed the video as well, all these things. I hope generally positive things are happening in your life right now. Okay, any requests or questions, leave them in the comments and I'll see you next week. Bye!